Hi everyone, I'm Bob Jeffrey, here in Mumbai, shooting the Indian edition of Worldmakers. Mumbai is the gateway to India's business and advertising communities, and of course Bollywood. To be world-made, you need to know India. Today on Worldmakers, we'll meet the storytellers, entrepreneurs, and inventors making India a global leader for innovation and imagination. And I'm pleased to say we're here with Rahul Bose, who was a former advertising executive, creative director, screenwriter, film director, actor, social activist, and a rugby player. Great to have you here, Rahul.
Thanks, Bob. It's my pleasure.
Let's start with social activism, because again, we're in India, and I know you have a lot of passion for that.
Right.
What are you doing, and what motivated you to get involved in that area?
When I started my own foundation, which is simply called The Foundation, we looked at children who were locked away in communities, from reasons of geography, too far away for anybody to care, like the Andaman Nicobar Islands. There might be boys and there might be girls, but essentially children, very bright children, who, if they left their communities, would flower. And we're always very aware that it's a bridge. It's not a burning of a bridge, that they will go back and come forth and go back and create a bridge for other children to follow.
Your whole history is one of personal transformations. You started in advertising, and actually you advanced very far at a very young age. And then you made the leap into acting. Bollywood is beyond the borders of India. People are intrigued with the storytelling and the cultural learning that you get out of them.
Sure.
So I just would like to get your insight about starting in advertising and making that transition. It's a great story.
Being a copywriter is quasi-creative. Yes, you are working for a company and for a client, and there's a brief. But there's if you have a facility with words and if you have ideas, there's space for you to enjoy yourself. And in the evenings, I used to act. In India, normally you have shows only on the weekends. So you rehearse from Monday to Friday, and as I did, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. after work, and then you put up your shows over the weekend. One of those plays that I was doing was watched by the casting director of India's first English language film, which was in 1993. And I had been in advertising for 4 years. And they said, would you like to be in India's first English film and play the lead? And that took a year for the whole thing to fructify. And by the time I got the role, I was on the threshold of becoming creative director. So I spoke to the bosses at Rediffusion, DYNR, and I said, look, is it possible that I can take 2 months off and go shoot a film and come back? And they said, absolutely, fantastic. They had tremendous, sagacity and wisdom.
They were pretty enlightened.
Yeah, I know they understood what they call the cross-fertilization of creativity.
Right.
So they said, you should go. So I did, and I came back, and I became creative director, and I was creative director for a year. But in that year, Bob, when I was creative director, I had no time to act. So I was always out there to prove myself. I enjoyed it, but it was harrowing physically. And also I realized how much I loved acting. And I said, okay, now's the time's come for me to quit. And my bosses said, are you sure? I said, of course I'm not sure. I don't know where my next role is coming from. I thought to myself, okay, if it doesn't work...
So you took a pretty big risk.
Yes. I got my next role in 1.5 months. So
Fantastic.
But no one will take me back, of course.
So I'm curious, from your perspective, because you have worked in advertising, but what is it about Bollywood and the films that are being made that you think has captured so much attention around the world?
Cinema, acting, Hollywood, or whatever it is, there's a certain sense and a certain narrative style that is very different from Bollywood. It's not treated as a non-exotic creature. However, this time in Toronto, I just came back, there was a long article about non-Bollywood Indian cinema. And they said, India is coming out with non-Bollywood films. We've been doing that for the last 20 years, in fact, 50 years, but they haven't recognized it. But there was a profusion of cinema this time that had nothing to do with the song and dance narrative.
What are some of those myths about India and filmmaking and creativity that really drive you crazy?
I think the first one is that they assume India is a homogeneous country. Like Hindi movies is what it's all about. Well, the truth is there are at least 10 different film industries in this country, and they're all very vibrant. India, you have to imagine as a continent of about 10 countries, loosely divided into language and different culture. And then you can actually appreciate Indian cinema and then nuance and slice it up and say this is how it's going. Otherwise, the Bollywood-ization of Indian cinema is possibly the most frustrating part of it.
I think about what's going on with mobile now and smartphones,
Sure.
and Nokia is a client of ours, and how you can actually, make a movie on your phone. Now, I know that's a bit extreme, but the fact that technology is liberating creativity, I mean, what do you think about that?
In that respect, I think there's a tremendous wave of democratization through technology. It simply has to be good. There'll be lots of nonsense that'll be out there, but there already is. But you will find some new heads and new minds coming in.
And there's no question you have a lot of passion. I've really enjoyed speaking with you. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you.